from across the states, some even from overseas, to advocate for human rights and anti-corruption, using the Tai Ji Men unjust case as the example. Holding this forum in DC, capital of the United States, is very meaningful. It reminds us the spirit of America as a leader of the democratic world, its defense for freedom in many areas, choice of religion being one of them. It takes courage and conscience to stand up and speak out in defending all human rights. We're opening the forum with a video to inspire courage and conscience in everyone with positive energy. Please enjoy. Warriors of conscience, the brave have no fear.
Since ancient times, drums have been used to inspire morale and courage, and transmit positive energy. The spirit of martial arts is to stop the war and promote good deeds. Even more profoundly represents conscience and justice that modern people need to uphold. Next, the Tai Ji Men performance will integrate new technology with ancient culture to inspire conscience and encourage the world to bravely move forward, to continue to strive for sustainable cycles of virtue in the treacherous times. Presenting to you the drum-inspiring conscience, the brave motivated to strive with no fear. The drums commanding the conscientious soldiers. Inheritance among the generations take place through the flow of times, leading to the opening of a new era. To unite and guard conscience to create a better environment, leading everyone to continue to shine in all fields.
Program accepted. One, two, three, four. System online.
conscience brings out the light of hope. May we unleash our greatest potentials, excel beyond ourselves, and create better and healthier lifestyles for humanity. Tai Ji Men wishes the conference a great success.
Through the flow. On new religions and editor-in-chief of the Bitter Winter magazine, Dr. Massimo Introvigne. Let's welcome.
Thank you. It's very refreshing to see our Dizi friends in person after a couple of years without traveling for reasons we all know. Since we approach the International Day Against Corruption, I would like to reflect on the Tai Ji Men case and the notion of corruptio optimi pessima. This is a Latin expression that means the corruption of what is very good is the worst corruption of all. And I want to mention that there was one European philosopher, the Austrian Ivan Illich. He was a Catholic priest who left the priesthood for political reasons, but remained a Roman Catholic until the end of his life, and somebody I met personally. And for Illich, corruptio optimi pessima was the very center of his philosophy. Interestingly, everybody mentions corruptio optimi pessima, but nobody knows who coined this sentence. Some say it was the Greek philosopher Aristotle, but in fact, we don't find the sentence before Pope Gregory the Great, who died in 604 Christian era. Now, Illich said corruptio optimi pessima is the center of the history of the West, and he wanted to write a great book about it, but never did. And when he died in his office at University of Bremen in Germany on December 2002, he was surrounded by the notes he was taking for this book he never wrote. So Illich's vision of corruptio optimi pessima is both an apology and a criticism of Christianity. Illich believed that Christianity marked all the history of the West, because before Christianity, there was no idea of universal morality in the West. There was in the East with Buddhism, but not in the West. In other words, if you were a Roman, you were supposed to treat fairly and be kind to your fellow Romans, but you didn't have the same duty toward those who were not Romans. And when Jesus Christ came and he introduced what our friends, the Tai Ji Men Dizi, will call peace, love, and universal kindness based on conscience. But unfortunately, Illich claims that immediately this corruption of the best thing which came to the West, i.e. the message of Jesus, this corruption started immediately. Now, you have to understand that Illich was a kind of utopian, prophetic, visionary philosopher, sometimes radical. So he believed that peace, love, and kindness can only exist in face-to-face relations when you talk to other people. And what happened is these values were managed and absorbed by bureaucracies. And he gives the example that the first Christians, they all kept in their homes a room and some food for a pilgrim or a traveler who would knock at their door. They felt strongly this duty of charity and hospitality. But in a few generations, rather than personally helping those in need, they were asked to pay taxes and to support huge ecclesiastical and civil bureaucracies who would manage boarding houses for the pilgrims. So they were told, don't host the pilgrims, give money in taxes, and the state or the church would host the pilgrims. And for Illich, that was the corruption, because unlike individual charitable persons, large bureaucracies are easily corrupted. Now, as I say, this is a radical idea, because if we follow Illich to the end, we should eliminate the state and believe only in small communities where you help people you know and see face to face. And some people may decide to live in this way, but it's impossible in large communities. However, I believe beyond his utopian radicalism, Illich was up to something important, i.e. that modern bureaucracies may make enormous damage. And this is not only, that's the Illich point, it's not only material damage. They may pocket money intended for better things, but it's also spiritual corruption, because they take out of society the supreme values of conscience and love and peace. People no longer believe in these values. So I believe this reflection is very important for the Tai Ji Men case, and to see the spiritual as well as the material dimension of the Tai Ji Men case. Why do we need the Minister of Finances and tax offices and enforcement offices? Well, Illich might tell us we don't need them, we can get rid of them. And I remember discussing these problems with Illich. Of course, that's impossible, except if you build in the desert a small utopian community. In a modern state, you need taxes, you need bureaucrats, but the point is they are called civil servants, meaning they are there to serve the citizens and not to be served by them. Or said in more philosophical terms, they are there to realize the aims the citizens have decided democratically. They are not there to decide the aim. They are not there to indicate the aim. They are only there to provide the tools to realize the aims. So the corruption occurs when the bureaucrats believe they have the power to decide the aims, and also they believe the aim is bureaucracy itself. So, of course, in bureaucracy, there is also material corruption. People want to pocket money, but there is this very deep spiritual corruption. They no longer regard them as civil servants, but they believe they are the masters. So in the Tai Ji Men case, there was a very material problem, pocketing bonuses. But there was also this deep spiritual problem, as the bureaucrats at the end of the day had abandoned their conscience, and they believe they were no longer civil servants, they were civil masters. So I believe in this day, mentioning Illich helps us to see that the corruption in the Tai Ji Men case was so deep that it went beyond the taxes and the money, and it attacked the very soul of a nation, Taiwan, and started eating the soul of Taiwan, corrupting it very deeply. And so only today a solution of the Tai Ji Men case may stop all this erosion, all poisoning of the integrity of Taiwan's soul. Because we know that these processes of corruption, if they are not stopped, normally lead to the fall of the nations. And so Taiwan is very much at a crossroad, because either this process of corruption is seen for what it is or stopped, or the nation will fall. So that's how discussing corruption is so important. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Massimo. It's not surprising to know it's hard to define corruption or any concept that ties with conscience. I remember when the resolution of conscience was proposed to the United States before the IC Day, International Day of Conscience, was assigned for April 5th in 2018. We were sitting in the conference room with all the department leaders, trying to define conscience. And we had talks for many hours, and we just couldn't define it, because as conscience prevails any rules of law or any regulations in our human world, and only all our actions is depicted by our conscience. Can we make the world peace and love be true? Right, next, and our next speaker is Professor PierLuigi Zoccatelli, Professor of Sociology of Religion, Pontifical Salesian University, Turin, Italy. Please welcome.
Thank you. I hope you see me and hear me. I don't know. Okay, thank you, Willy. I'm very pleased to attend the seminar preparing both the International Anti-Corruption Day of December 9 and the Human Rights Day of December 10. It's an interesting question is whether the 2 days are related. In other words, is corruption a violation of human rights? This question was addressed in an important conference organized by the Maastricht Center for Human Rights in the Netherlands on October 2009, whose proceedings have been published and have influenced the subsequent documents of the United Nations. The question is very important for the Tai Ji Men case, in my opinion. There is little doubt that corruption played a crucial role in what happened to Tai Ji Men. Even without mentioning political corruption, that is a fact that the criminal prosecution of 1996 was politically motivated and based on grounds the prosecutor knew were false. The whole story of the 1992 tax bills and the auction and seizure of Tai Ji Men's sacred land in 2020 is a classic tale of corruption. Tax bureaucrats maintain a tax bill for 1992 that they knew was based on a false assessment of the nature of the gifts received by Tai Ji Men leader Dr. Hong Tao-tse in the so-called red envelopes. They knew the assessment was false, as they had reduced to zero the tax bills for other years, and they knew that the gifts and the ways of giving them in 1992 had not been different from the other years. The bureaucrats of the Administrative Enforcement Agency that auctioned and seized the land had also been told by lawyers, experts, politicians, and courts of law that they were proceeding based on a wrong and substantially illegal tax bill. Yet, they proceeded. Why did the tax bureaucrats and the enforcement bureaucrats act as they did? Because of a peculiar Taiwanese system denounced as immoral by leading scholars in Taiwan and internationally, whereby they get bonuses based on tax bills and enforcement. Said in less technical terms, the law allows them to pocket money. If they recognize a bill or an order for execution as substantially illegal and they do not go on with them, they lose money, personal money. Money going to their pockets, perhaps supporting a new car or an expensive holiday. So the system creates a monumental conflict of interest. Unless the bureaucrats are all on angels, the system also becomes a machine to generate corruption. It is a general principle that corruption is an internal matter of the states. They should spot it, punish it, and rectify it. International bodies and other countries can offer suggestions and even shame the corrupted states publicly, but they cannot intervene. However, human rights are a different matter. The United Nations, the European Union, and individual countries, including the United States, have recognized that when human rights are violated, this is an international humanitarian problem, and the international community and individual states have both a right and a duty to intervene. This is why the question whether corruption is or is not a violation of human rights is so important. Even if in the Tai Ji Men case other fundamental individual rights were violated, such as freedom of religion or belief, it is important to argue that the Tai Ji Men Shifu, the master, and Dizi, devotees, have also seen their human rights violated since they became victims of corruption. The majority position at the Maastricht Conference was that there is indeed a provision in international law that makes corruption a violation of human rights. It is Article 2, number 1 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. It states that each state party to the present covenant undertake to take steps individually and through international assistance and cooperation, especially economic and technical, to the maximum of its available resources with a view to achieving progressively the full realization of the rights recognized in the present covenant by all appropriate means. End of quotation. The broad language mentioning mobilizing the maximum of resources, achieving the full realization of human rights, using all appropriate means, implies, according to most scholars, that states should eliminate corruption because corruption prevents citizens from fully enjoying their human rights. The Maastricht Conference had an influence on the final report of the United Nations Human Rights Council Advisory Committee on the issue of the negative impact of corruption on the enjoyment of human rights of January 5, 2015, and on Resolution 2911 of the United Nations Human Rights Council titled The Negative Impact of Corruption on the Enjoyment of Human Rights and dated July 2, 2015. These documents confirm that corruption is a violation of human rights and of Article 2 of the Covenant. This is important for Taiwan because while not being a member of the United Nations, Taiwan made the International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights in 2009 part of its domestic law. The situation can thus be summarized in 4 statements. First, according to the prevailing United Nations interpretation, Article 2, Number 1 of the Covenant makes corruption a violation of human rights. Second, Taiwan made the Covenant part of its domestic law and should respect it. Third, corruption played a key role in the unjust tax and enforcement persecution of Tai Ji men, violating their human rights. Fourth, and finally, Taiwan should apply the Covenant and rectify the injustices vested on Tai Ji men. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Zoccatelli. Right. Any forms of corruption should be disciplined and rectified. Taiwan's Taxation Bureau officials' corruption imposed upon Tai Ji men its deeds, persecution of human rights to freedom of religion, and should be rectified. Thank you again. Our next speaker is Mr. Willy Fautré, Director of Co-founder and co
Hello. Thank you for giving me the floor for this important conference about corruption, human rights, and the Tai Ji men case. My paper will address several issues: the definition of corruption, the negative impact of corruption on human rights, how to combat corruption, and combating corruption related to the case of Tai Ji men. First surprise is that there is no universally agreed definition of corruption, nor does the UN Convention Against Corruption feature one. According to a definition that is often quoted by civil society and EU institutions, corruption is, and I quote, the abuse of entrusted power for private gain, unquote. Second surprise is that neither international human rights treaties nor the Convention Against Corruption explicitly define corruption as a violation of human rights. Yet interpretations of these legally binding texts, as well as other guiding international documents, increasingly link corruption to human rights. Next point is about the negative impact of corruption on human rights. Corruption is recognized as an obstacle to sustainable development in all its dimensions and has a harmful impact on human rights, such as equal access to justice, protection of fundamental freedoms, and non-discrimination, especially in the case of poor and vulnerable people. In addition, corruption undermines the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and has a negative impact on peace, stability, security, the rule of law, gender equality, and the environment. The need to reinforce international efforts against corruption stems from the gravity of the issue in today's world. All UN member states, except 6 of them, have already ratified the UN Convention Against Corruption. This is the only legally binding international anti-corruption treaty which has been in force since 2005. But various organizations point out that serious implementation gaps persist. The UN Human Rights Council highlights that all forms of corruption can have a serious negative impact on human rights, but also the rule of law and democratic practices. Judicial corruption limits the right to a fair trial and remedy and can encourage related abuses such as extrajudicial detention and torture. Corruption represents a big obstacle to socio-economic development as it blocks immense resources from being used to promote socio-economic rights, such as the right to an adequate standard of living, education, and health care. Moreover, corruption erodes the quality of governance and public trust. Next point is about how to fight against corruption. In several resolutions on the negative impact of corruption on the enjoyment of human rights, the UN Human Rights Council emphasizes the importance of a preventive approach to corruption with a focus on safeguarding the human rights of vulnerable persons, ensuring a safe and enabling environment for civil society, providing anti-corruption education, and fostering cooperation between national anti-corruption authorities and national human rights institutions. The 2019 Oslo Statement, prepared by over 140 experts, recommended, among other things, that additional research be carried out on the impact of corruption, involving a vast quantity of assets on global peace and security, human rights, climate, and biodiversity. From the judicial point of view, the causal relationship between corruption and human rights violations may not sufficiently be clear, as it's not always possible to consider an act of corruption as a human rights violation that could be invoked in a court of law. The International Council on Human Rights Policy, an independent expert forum, maintains that to apply the human rights framework in a legally effective way, it is necessary to distinguish whether corrupt practices violate a human right directly or indirectly, or whether no causal link can in practice be established. To better integrate a human rights law perspective into actions against corruption, international bodies such as the UN Human Rights Council and the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights have advocated a human rights-based approach to corruption. This approach would be complementary to the criminal law approach, which treats corruption as a criminal offense. It would focus on the individual victims of corruption, on prevention and remedy. According to the UN, the criminal justice approach assumes that the state and the public it represents has been harmed by acts of corruption committed by individuals. The human rights-based approach focuses attention on how the state has breached its obligations towards the public by failing to protect it from corruption, and on the need for the provision of remedies by the state. Conversely, respect for human rights in general, and in particular freedom of expression, assembly, and association, and the right to information, can have a strong preventive effect on corruption. According to the World Bank governance indicators of 2019, countries that perform well with regard to political participation rights, while also ensuring freedom of expression, of association, and of the media, also tend to do well in combating corruption. The next point is about corruption related to the Tai Ji Men case. I will first come back to the definition of corruption largely used by civil society and in EU institutions, which is corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. It is obvious that in Taiwan, there are abuses by the administrative power for private gain. What is at stake here is the system of bonuses, which viciously leads to the overcollection of taxes and even the fabrication of tax evasion cases. This is an abuse of power for private financial gain. If the tax income collected for this year, for example, does not meet the expected amount, the staff member's performance score will be low, and he or she will not receive a tax collection bonus. As a result, individuals in high position will encourage their employees to collect more taxes in order to improve their performance score and be eligible for a promotion. The objective is purely financial benefit, private gain. The beneficiaries of this rotten system are the Ministry of Finance, the National Tax Bureau, and the Enforcement Agency. However, this bonus system, which is a product of the martial law era, has no legal basis, but a fund is budgeted every year for the system. Businesses are often coerced by tax officers to pay some unjustified taxes. And some tax officers would even conduct malicious tax audits for the sake of bonuses. Many people don't owe any tax, but the enforcement agency would forcibly auction their property, as it was the case with Tai Ji Men. Moreover, issuing a so-called wrong tax bill is not punishable. Former Control Yuan member Qianlin Yi-Jing once said in our webinar, and I quote, "The bonus system should have been abolished long ago, because bonuses provide an incentive to be greedy. Public servants are paid by the public money. They must work properly according to their conscience," unquote. In 2009, the case of Tai Ji Men, for example, was listed by the Control Yuan in 2005 as one of the major human rights protection cases in the general report and the work of human rights protections of the Control Yuan, 1999-2005. The case of Tai Ji Men shows that the system of tax bonuses granted to public servants can lead to undue fiscal and judicial harassment for years and decades. It also proves that this system is a form of organized corruption inside the state itself and an abuse of power of their leaders and their staff for personal financial benefit. In conclusion, our NGO, Human Rights Without Frontiers, recommends a reform in the Taiwanese judicial system, especially the administrative litigation system. The annulment of the bonus system, as it creates incentives that can lead to undue fiscal and judicial harassment in total impunity. And, next point, sanctions against those in state administrations and the judiciary who are found to be negligent or to have abused their power. Thank you for your attention.
Many administrative corruption have surfaced. And at first, it's Tai Ji Men Dizi, who see the default, the faults in the government. But then over 25 years of persecution and suffering, we have tried to reveal it to the world, to Taiwanese people and to the world. And we're here calling out to Taiwanese government, it's time for a total reform. Hopefully this time you will hear us. And our next speaker is Ms. Camelia Marin, Deputy Director of SOTERIA International of Denmark.
Hello, everyone. And thank you very much for organizing this event. I see it as a source of hope and optimism in solving different issues regarding the human rights and anti-corruption. Today, the rule of law is challenged not only from arbitrary application of the law within certain states, but increasingly by how the tools regulating the interaction between different national judicial systems lacks a precision so I repeat, but increasingly by how the tools regulating the interaction between different national judicial systems lacks a precision to hinder abuses and misinterpretations. Thus, the very tool for securing the rule of law open a risk for its corruption. The Tai Ji Men case shows clearly abuses done within national systems, as in the Tai Ji Men case, we can notice that the rule of law fair trial face another aspect. The decision of the court is not applied as such, and thus we face a case of administrative persecution or violence, or we can say corruption. Let's go back in time on December 10, 1948, when the Declaration of Human Rights was proclaimed. In the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, one speaks strongly about the dignity and equal and inalienable human rights as the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Ignorance and violation of human rights, says the preamble, often resulted in revolting, barbarous acts. Moreover, here is proclaimed the image of a world where man is free to think and talk about his beliefs, free from terror and misery, as an expression of one of the highest aspirations of humanity. Also, it is specified that this statement was intended to be a common ideal of humanity to which all people and nations should and must converge constantly, and by the teaching and the education that they will understand to give their people, each based on its specific, and by bearing in mind that this ideal sprang from the deeply humanistic spirit of the Declaration, strive very hard and use all the means to develop a great respect and justification for these rights and freedoms. What have all these people and nations disregarded since after more than half a century, the ideals formulated so clearly and strongly by it were simply forgotten and completely ignored. Let's analyze the case of Tai Ji Men spiritual community, which is unfortunately an example for the corrupted state system. Tai Ji Men case is a domestic Taiwan tax law case. It is not a private problem of Dr. Hong. It is a case arising a question of principle and of justice, and of course, of religious liberty. This case, which is a tax case, actually, it is mostly a freedom of religion or belief case. To let persecution and discrimination to be shaped as private financial matters or even criminal charges has a long history. The corruption, biased application of the laws is systematically observed in the structures of different countries. The morality and ethics, which should be at the base of all natural and supportive structures of a country, are very challenged lately. The concern for the Tai Ji Men case, which can become a precedent case for unfair, biased taxation, shows the need of action and standing for human rights violation and anti-corruption. Tai Ji Men faces injustices and biased application of laws and courts' decisions in their case for 25 years. We wonder for how long the Taiwanese government wishes to prolong this administrative violence and apply corrupted rules upon Tai Ji Men community. And also, as Willy Fautré mentioned earlier, there are so many officials even knowing about this bonus system, which actually is so biased in itself because it becomes a temptation for those employees in order to just receive themselves bonuses to apply unjustified taxes to different people or to different organizations. Who is responsible and can take action to correct and finalize this situation? The highest courts and authorities of Taiwan had concluded that there were no cults, no fraud, no violation of the Tax Collection Act in the Tai Ji Men case. And this decision, even though given for since several years, is not yet applied. Now we see that arbitrary use by National Tax Bureau, who claimed that the content of the red envelopes should not be considered as a gift, but as a tuition fee for receiving training in the so-called cram school, it's applicable only for the year 1992. And for the rest of the year, it's just considered gifts. Why is this? How that actually in the same case, in the same system of the school, still this biased application for only 1 year can appear. Yeah, we know that the gifts are not taxable while the cram school's tuition fee is taxable. But this actually, it is behind all a case which the judicial system should consider, and if the decision of the court is given, to be absolutely applied. And that's the system, the Taiwanese system, who should protect, who should take care that the court decision is applied entirely and not this to become a case of the National Tax Bureau. Because we can put a simple question, what made the year 1992 different of the other years? How can Taiwanese authorities justify abuses against those who wish to freely express this kind of spiritual experiences and beliefs? Abuses that after more than half a century after the promulgation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights still exist in the form of inadmissible moral atrocities committed against those people. There are several questions and angles to take and to analyze. We can observe that the administrative system has the tendency to take over the judicial one or over other institutions of the state. The administrative system, mainly based on the control obtained upon people through bureaucracy and control upon the money, can easily become a tool for corruption and biased taxation. Still, we should never forget that the humanity has higher ideals and goes for morality, for awakening consciousness, and for going on a strong belief. We hope that all these questions to reach those to whom it may concern, and hopefully to see some actions done in order to reestablish the human rights and to clean the tendency of corruption of the institutions of the state. We hope very much that the Taiwanese government will observe, will notice that this case, which is still ongoing after so many years, it's the time to solve it. It's the time to put an end to all the abuses and the morality to prevail upon just administrative issues. And concluding my speech, let me express my gratitude for the perseverance and optimism that Tai Ji Men shows and shares by standing for their case, for their rights, bringing hope to the many others around the world who have not yet found justice, but are still persecuted in violation with the universal human rights of freedom of thought, conscience, and belief. Thank you very much for your attention, and we go for the hope and respect of the human rights.
Thank you, Ms. Marin. You and we all, we wonder how long Taiwanese government is going to keep this going. It has been 25 years, a quarter of the century. So the big question is, yes, of the century, yes, how long is Taiwanese government is going to keep this going? And the big takeaway from Ms. Marin's speech, we should never forget humanity has high ideals. We hope Taiwanese government will observe and notice this ongoing case and should be put to an end immediately. Tai Ji Men's persistence brings hope, not just to Tai Ji Men Dizi and to others who have been suffering from the persecution from the government. All right, our next speaker is Mr. Alex Amicarelli. He's the president of European Federation for Freedom of Belief. Mr. Amicarelli, you have the floor.
Good afternoon from London. It's afternoon here. Good morning and good evening to everyone attending this lovely seminar. Thank you for the very nice presentations which were just made before me. A lot of points were covered. We've been discussing the Tai Ji Men case for a very long time in a number of webinars, seminars, white papers, articles. Now it's time for action, actual action to begin. And I believe this is the day when we are turning to the next chapter. Just as a personal note, when I first visited Taiwan over 10 years ago, while visiting a temple, I noticed pictures of some men over the walls, and the guide of the temple explained to us that two of those people in the pictures were actually two politicians, a father and a son, that were no more with us as they had been executed for corruption. So I realized that corruption is taken very seriously in Taiwan, and I started asking questions about the situation of corruption in Taiwan. So because of my legal interest, my legal background, I started looking for more data. And apparently, based on some recent research, there have been improvements in Taiwan insofar as there have been less cases of corruption. So Taiwan is actually improving and standing as a democracy, as we all see Taiwan as a democracy in Asia. Nonetheless, there are issues in the Tai Ji Men case that need to be addressed, and this is what we are trying to do as a group of fellow human rights advocates from different backgrounds and from different countries. From what we could say over the last over a year, perusing the Tai Ji Men case, we can indeed say that corruption is at the very core of the Tai Ji Men case. If we look at the court case, raising goblins was a fabrication. Providing fake testimonies, making up fake stories was part of the conspiracy against the Tai Ji Men group. People from Tai Ji Men had suffered the denial of freedom of religion and belief, yes. They suffered denial of freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and so on. As the prosecution lasted for 25 years, they also failed to enjoy the right to peaceful use of private property, as a number of properties were seized and confiscated by the national authorities. Personally, while assessing this case, I would say that we can see three different levels, at least three different levels of corruption in the Tai Ji Men case. Of course, the very core of the court case, and specifically the work of the prosecutor, was highly corrupted because of the fake testimonies, the fake accusations, and the made-up stories, as it's been cleared and clarified several times. And because the court case totally cleared any responsibility on the side of Tai Ji Men that are totally innocent. That corruption, that level 1 corruption, has continued so far till today. So this is a case of continued corruption. So we can call this a second level of corruption, which may or may have not connections with the original court case, because what's happening now is something different, not actually related to the court case, which has been concluded in favor of Tai Ji Men, as we all know. Where this case of persecution of Tai Ji Men originate from, we don't actually know. But it may only be a case of domestic persecution, so someone disliking Tai Ji Men to the point of causing all the trouble that has been caused for the last 25 years, or there may be what I would call a third level of corruption, so a case of international corruption. International corruption insofar as there may be other governments involved in the persecution against Tai Ji Men, or if not governments, some agencies of some foreign governments. So governments which are not the Republic of China, Taiwan, but different governments, or international organizations fighting against cults. Because we have to remember that the initial accusation against Tai Ji Men was the typical case of accusation against what they call cults in Europe. The same fabrications that we saw a number of times in Europe and in the so-called West against minority groups accused of being sects or cults. So there may be international influences in the Tai Ji Men case. I don't want to take too much time. So as I said, I see today and the 10th of December as the Human Rights Day, the time to move on and change the story of Tai Ji Men in Taiwan. Now it's time to move from prosecuting the innocents to prosecuting the criminals. It's time to start a new chapter also in court against those who are wrongly accusing Tai Ji Men, those who are wrongly violating their rights. It's time to return properties and lands to Tai Ji Men, to the Dizi, and to the organization, and to Dr. Ong. And it's also time to pay damages for all the sufferance these people experienced over the last 25 years. We heard a number of testimonies of people who suffered incredibly. And that's very insane that a democratic country like Taiwan can permit this to be continued so far. This must be stopped. Tai Ji Men must fully enjoy their basic human rights, as again, Taiwan is a democratic country where the rule of law governs the country. Human rights, democracy, rule of law are the basic principles of a democratic society. And we want to believe that Taiwan will encourage the furtherance of these principles in the country, and may the Tai Ji Men case be an example for all other groups that may fully enjoy all their rights. I will stop it here. I know there is a video now, and then we will move on with the second part of the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Amicarelli. Sorry about my pronunciation. Indeed, it is unacceptable that the made-up evidence and stories have been used in this persecution, and even more ridiculous that it has lasted this long. The media captured prosecutor Hou Kuan-ren saying that he accused Tai Ji Men of raising goblins because, quote, I saw a streak of shadow in his eyes, and based on my years of experience, I suspect it's so, unquote. It does not make any sense how a case that started from such unscientific and unlawful means should last this long without the government's support to rectify the case. It's just not right. We thank you all for spending time to show your support for the Tai Ji Men case and also for human rights around the world. And thank you all for joining us today. I know some of you have your next commitment. So we would like to take this opportunity to take a group photo with you guys. We're going to take 2 photos. You know, our live audience and the speakers, please remain seated. We're going to have our photographers going on the stage to take a photo facing down. And then the second one would be, we would be inviting our speakers to go standing next to the our big screen with all other speakers on the Zoom call to take another one. Oh. Okay. We're selecting our invite our audience who are sitting in the right to move, to the seats in the middle. If there are any seats available. Yes. And behind our audience, we also have another screen that shows our speakers on the Zoom call. Please don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are. Oh, can we have like a couple of you standing behind the tripods? 站在那个摄影机前面，挡住摄影机的那个三脚架。Oh, okay. Our online speakers, we can see you right next to our live audience. So don't go anywhere and show your. Right, the camera is actually right in front of on the stage. So where you just look straight to your camera. All right, on three, please repeat what I say for human rights. 1, 2, 3, for human rights. For human rights. Okay. Is it good? All right, we're going to take our second photo. Dr. Massimo, can we please have you stand right next to the big screen? Right next to the stage. Yes. And all our speakers of today, including our online speakers and Tai Ji Men Dizi, who are going to present later. Right, Jessica, Michelle, Cici, Polly, Coco, Jeff Chen. You just make sure you don't block the speakers on the Zoom. Oh, do we want a banner? Do we want one with the banner? No? Okay. Let's still do one call out for human rights. Right. When you call out, please raise your right hand, the right arm, to put it in front of you, right? Including our Zoom callers. All right. Okay. Right, for human rights. On three. 1, 2, 3. For human rights. One more time. For human rights. For human rights. All right, thank you very much. Please return to your seat. Thank you so much for joining us again on the Zoom call. And we understand if you have to leave for your next commitment. And thank you again. And next we have a video to show with all of you. A lot of comments and statements from religious leaders. Please go ahead.
The bell of peace is an auspicious and peaceful bell which resonates with heaven and earth. It's a promise about world love and peace. The article, "The love of the world, a declaration of peace," is our common wish. Ringing the bell with the wish makes all living beings prosper, and love and peace last forever. Ringing the bell that saves the world could raise people's awareness. Only by congregating the wishes for love and peace will all living beings be able to thrive, and love and peace be sustained forever.
Tai Ji Men is good at both, strengthen the physical health and cultivate the mind.
The action is very meaningful. Today, I wish our Tai Ji Men Cultural Goodwill Group the best of luck on their journey and their holy mission.
Dr. Hong, I believe, is such a great person who has accomplished this. If this can be propagated over the world, our planet will undoubtedly be a better place to live.
All the participants are very pleased. This is extremely rare, blessing, the heavens are helping you.
The sky is also smiling, joyful, and no rain, which I believe is also the intention of the god. The Tai Ji Men ceremony of praying to heaven for blessings for all, in my opinion, was a very memorable and significant occasion.
This is the highest ceremony in the Taoism. So many people came. I can say all religions.
Working together for world peace is a manner of caring for the globe, and the Tai Ji Men is well known for it.
I sincerely believe that the Tai Ji Men will bring forth happiness, joy, health, and wealth to the 5 billion population in the world.
一心是这快乐之源。掌门人洪道子1999年8月1日演讲致辞于美国旧金山。
Tai Ji Men's wide-ranging and profound culture is endless. Tai Ji Men Dizi are devoted and kind-hearted, friends to all. The spirit of Tai Ji Men is that we are all of the same flesh and blood, and we love one another as brothers. Tai Ji Men Culture Goodwill Group chose this window on the world, that is the U.S., in hopes that more people of different faiths and races, be they rich or poor, might all be blessed, like us, with happy and with joyful hearts.
Tai Ji Men, and they traveled to America for the very first time to participate in St. Baron. We've got a bit of a...
Taiwan! We are Tai Ji Men!
From the torchlight parades in Seattle and drum ceremony in Washington State Capitol to Capitol Hill.
The Mayor of the District of Columbia does hereby proclaim March 22nd, 2000 as Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy Day in Washington, D.C., and we welcome these international ambassadors of peace and goodwill.
So Mayor Harris welcomes Dr. Hong, and he declares September 16th today as Dr. Hong Day, and we congratulate you.
Tom Bates, Mayor of the City of Berkeley, hereby proclaim August 5th, 2005 to be Federation of World Peace and Love Day in the City of Berkeley.
Tai Ji Men understands this, that our conduct must mirror our words, must match our sentiments, pointers in the direction in which we should travel.
This is academy. It's one of the very important academy in the world.
So I want to commend you, and I want to somehow
show you my support and the support of the Dominican people.
So many young people whose conscience can be inspired. His words resonated with me today.
I say amen.
Expanding democracy and through reaching out to each other
will not only bring prosperity but peace to people.
Spread the message for world love and peace. Some people have asked us, will ringing the bell really bring peace? We truly believe that the seed can grow into a tree and trees will grow into a forest. Each time we speak up for justice, we spread a seed of hope. Together, we're fostering a beautiful forest of hope. So let's continue our great works together. For today's event, we also have invited our Tai Ji Men Dizi to share their personal accounts and perspectives. Please join me in welcoming the first group of speakers to the stage. Ms. Cici Han, Ms. Coco Ye, Ms. Polly Han. Welcome. All right, our first speaker could not join us today, but prepared her version in the video. Let's welcome Ms. Yi-Jing Chen's message.
Distinguished and honored guests, good day. My name is Yi-Jing Chen, a Tai Ji Men Dizi. I'm honored here as a world citizen with freedom of speech to share my understanding of human rights. The topic of my sharing today is Tai Ji Men and the Tai Ji Men case, politics versus the spiritual minorities. I live in Taiwan. I would like to discuss more about this issue for people to understand about Taiwan, Tai Ji Men, and its contribution to the world, and the Tai Ji Men case, the 25-year wrongful persecution and the illegal taxation of Tai Ji Men by the Taiwan government. Tai Ji Men is an ancient empire similar to school of Qigong, martial arts, and self-cultivation. an international nonprofit cultural and spiritual organization. The culture of Tai Ji Men is deeply rooted in Tao wisdom. In response to a calling to bring both physical and spiritual health to modern society, the contemporary Zhang Menren, Great Master of Tai Ji Men, Dr. Hong Daozi, established the Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy in 1966 and successively founded the academies in both Taiwan and the United States. Tai Ji Men's action and mission is to promote a culture of conscience for love and peace in the world. In 2014, Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy, the Association of World Citizens, AWC, and the Federation of World Peace and Love for Power jointly launched the global movement of an era of conscience. So the initiator of the movement, Dr. Hong Daozi, Zhang Menren of Tai Ji Men, and the president of For Power stated, kind intentions and good hearts are the positive energies necessary to safeguard the Earth's sustainable development. In February 2019, Dr. Hong and the members of For Power launched a global endorsement campaign for the declaration of International Day of Conscience at the United Nations in New York City. The initiative was then praised by Office of the United Nations and heads of states of several countries, and eventually led the UN proclaim April 5th as the International Day of Conscience, the 166th UN Day. Now, let's take a look at the video of the 2019 International Day of Conscience forums organized at the United Nations headquarters in Vienna.
For Power firmly believes that conscience is the wellspring of love and peace.
It is a great pleasure for Bahrain to be able to organize with the Federation of World Peace and Love the International Day of Conscience.
Establishing an International Day of Conscience is timely at this juncture in world history.
The UN's designation of April 5th as the International Day of Conscience marks a significant milestone in human history. The conscience movement encouraged people to start by themselves and to work together in line with the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. First, quality education, and Goal 17, diverse partnerships, contribute to the sustainable development and world peace. So till now, the Declaration of the International Day of Conscience has been signed and recognized by people from more than 196 countries. And the International Day of Conscience IC Day website and the For Power have organized and participated in more than 40 global online events to promote the conscience and celebrate the United Nations Day, bring together many heads of state and leaders to contribute their excellent opinions. So this year's Dr. Hong and Tai Ji Men Dizi have visited over 300 cities in 101 countries to promote the conscious movement and the International Day of Conscience through the multiple and active events, such as the wisdom dialogues with the international influential, the cultural exchanges, ring the bell of world peace and love, participation in many UN events as a non-governmental organization, forum announcements, and the promotion of the Declaration of Conscience, etc., which have received the support of many international heads of states and leaders. With a common goal and a vision for a mission of love and peace in the world, Dr. Hong has maintained a correspondence and a friendships based on selfless devotion with heads of state and world leaders over the years, including the past popes, the Secretary General of the United Nations, the President of the United States, and others. The former US President George Bush praised Dr. Hong for his efforts to preserve the rich custom and history, and to help others take pride in their roots and appreciate the values. In a personal letter, the former President Barack Obama said, Dr. Hong's words and support are always in his mind. The Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, also thanked Dr. Hong for his meaningful inspiration and for working together for the noble ideas that the UN upholds and defends. So these photos are all a testimony to their activities. I think that these international leaders really felt the importance of conscience on the world. Through the cultural journey of conscience by Tai Ji Men, Shifu, and Dizi, connecting these influential people around the world has indeed ignited the light of hope for love and peace and boosted the world with an injection of conscience. Tai Ji Men's approach in promoting the conscience movement is also their way of practicing the conscience. However, it is undeniable that in a turbulent international situation now, people's rights are extremely vulnerable, even in democratic countries. While Tai Ji Men, Shifu, and Dizi are committed to love and peace, they are also suffering from the 25-year-long human rights persecution involving the legal and the tax violence and the violence of the freedom of religion or belief. Taiwan is known as the country of democracy and freedom in Asia. So this is really quite ironic and unbelievable. The Tai Ji Men case has been just discussed at a side event of the International Religious Freedom Summit in Washington, D.C. in July. The Ambassador Sam Brownback and Dr. Katrina Lentil-Sweet, the co-chairs of the IRF Summit in 2021, both expressed their concerns about the Tai Ji Men case. Since the Tai Ji Men case reveals a clear international trend in the message that the government persecution on minority spiritual and religious groups for infringing on their properties may occur anywhere, even in the democratic countries. On July 13, 2007, the Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men not guilty of fraud, not tax evasion, or a violation of the tax codes. The Supreme Court also determined that the red envelopes given by their disciple to Shifu were hongbao, monetary gifts by nature, and they were tax-free income under the Income Tax Act in Taiwan. However, the National Tax Bureau, NTB, neglected the decision by criminal court and continued to issue the illegal tax bill, leading to the illegal auction and the confiscation of sacred land belonging to Dr. Hong and Tai Ji Men by the Taiwan government in August 2020. So the persecution of Tai Ji Men in Taiwan is not only the confiscation of Tai Ji Men's land and assets, but also a serious infringement of the human rights and the dignity of Tai Ji Men, Shifu, and Dizi. It is a fact that Tai Ji Men, Shifu, and Dizi have spent plenty of time and energy in the Tai Ji Men case already. In the absence of the case, they would have dedicated their positive energy wholeheartedly to helping the world rebuild a culture of conscience, love, and peace, and make the world even a better place. So this is not only a loss for Taiwan, but also a loss for the whole world. So in conclusion, Tai Ji Men's rights were violated by the government through both the criminal law and the tax law persecution for 25 years. The book, Who Stored Their Youth, recorded the difficulties faced by members of Tai Ji Men with government's abuse power and bureaucracy. This shows that the democratic rule of law in Taiwan has not been truly implemented and valued, and highlight why the education of conscience is so important. For the human rights of all world citizens, I sincerely call on the Taiwan government to abide by the law and the procedural justice, to implement the human rights protection, to redress the Tai Ji Men case immediately, and to return the justice to Tai Ji Men. Thanks for your listening.
currently faces. And next, we would like to invite Ms. Cici Han's message. Cici, you have the floor.
Hi everyone, my name is Cici Han. I am an architect in training in the state of California and a mother of two. And I'm really honored here to participate in today's forum. I'm a Tai Ji Men Dizi. I started practicing Qigong at the age of 13. Like many brothers and sisters who joined Tai Ji Men initially, all because of our health conditions. Since I was young, I had a very severe allergy and atopic dermatitis. Nasal congestion, sneezing, eczema follows me all year round, which have made my childhood miserable. My mother introduced me to Tai Ji Men because she thought Qigong would help my health, and it did. But what I have learned the most valuable thing from Tai Ji Men, from my Shifu Dr. Hong, is the way to treat people and the way to treat myself. No matter how people look at us, at the end of the day, it is the conscience that we must face. My Shifu told us that because life is full of ups and downs, we need to always find a balance in order to keep up with our life. He taught us ways and wisdoms to find a balance physically and mentally. What I learned from Tai Ji Men allows me to find my balance when hard times strike, so I'm able to stay calm and grateful when life is challenging. The energy fields are all shared and connected, so our own good is not enough. We need to constantly spread positive influences onto the world to counterbalance the negative force in the universe. Practice Qigong to gain back health is the first part. Soon we realize that physical health is deeply connected with our state of mind. Our mental health is equally important, if not more. My Shifu taught us yin-yang philosophy to help us differentiate right from wrong, good from evil, like a moral compass in heart, guiding us toward the correct path, even when we're lost. My Shifu took us to visit 101 countries to spread the message of love, peace, and conscience. Conscience is a concept that everyone knows, but hardly choose to follow. Because there is too much baggage that we as humans like to carry around and hard to let go, such as pride, greed, vanity, and even plain laziness can easily cause us to deviate from our conscience. From Tai Ji Men, I learned that if I don't know how to react to a situation, then act according to my conscience. Do not conceal any fact or deceive just because of worrying about how others will react. If I make a mistake, of course, I will worry about how people will get angry and how I will be blamed. It's normal that people tend to find excuses or try to conceal their mistake, but it is not the right way or the sustainable way. Maybe my concealment or my deception will keep me away from liable, but God knows, and I know. And how am I able to face my conscience and sleep well at night? So I must admit the truth and own my mistake and take responsibility so my heart is free of guilt, so I can move on with my life. However, in the case of Tai Ji Men, a small number of illegal officials refuse to admit their mistakes. Hou Kuan-ren, an unscrupulous prosecutor, illegally accused Tai Ji Men Shifu for years, accusing him of fraud, raising goblins, evading taxes. Hou Kuan-ren fabricated evidence, gave false testimony, and colluded with Shi Shen, a tax collector from National Taxation Bureau. Lie and withheld evidence that favored Tai Ji Men. resulted in invalid judgments, deceiving the government, misleading the public opinion, and persecuting Tai Ji Men Shifu and Dizi for nearly 25 years. The bottom line is that this gang of illegals refuse to admit their mistakes, profit from them, shield one another, and had completely abandoned their conscience. In fact, the 6-year tax bills for which Tai Ji Men was prosecuted should have been revoked according to the law in 2007, when Supreme Court ruled that Tai Ji Men was not guilty, tax exempt, and did not violate the tax code. However, the 1992 tax bill remained because the National Taxation Bureau violated due process, failed to investigate an official, and concealed the evidence before issuing the bill. It also failed to give Tai Ji Men an opportunity to make a statement. As a result, the judge of the administrative court made a verdict in vain and misjudgment that Tai Ji Men need to be taxed before the Supreme Court decision in 2007. The National Taxation Bureau knew that Tai Ji Men had no tax evasion and no violation of tax code in 2007, but it still refused to admit its mistake and continued to issue tax bill against the law. The National Taxation Bureau even joined hands with the Administrative Enforcement Agency to illegally auction the land belonged to Tai Ji Men and forcibly nationalize it in August last year. Because of the illegal conduct of a few bureaucrats, the nation's stigma of robbing civilians' property is in no doubt. Taiwan takes pride in being a democratic country that values freedom and human rights. However, for its own benefits, the government allows rogue officials to abuse the state power and cause pain and misery to the people. The country we love is the one that hurts us the most. And such a situation takes place in Taiwan, which is known for being free, democratic, and law-governed. Is this an irony? In comparison to the separation of three powers in the United States, Taiwan has established the examination yuan and the control yuan. The purpose of the establishment of control yuan is to check and balance our government. The control yuan has the right to impeach and rectify the illegal acts of officials, hoping to prevent officials from illegal conduct and abuse of power. The control yuan, in fact, has investigated and determined that Prosecutor Hong Kwan had 8 major violations when conducting the Tai Ji Men case, but no disciplinary action was ever imposed to him because of the rogue officials shielded one another. People who commit crime should be sanctioned by the law. As a public servant of the people, Hong Kwan has not been held accountable or punished. Instead, his political career has skyrocketed. Imagine if a powerful government official made a mistake and people were persecuted. Some lost their entire wealth. Some lost their family and marriages. Some died from depression of being wrongfully accused. And the officials who had caused all this do not need to be held accountable and bear any responsibility, do not admit their mistakes, and have no compassion for their people, but only care about their political future and their profit, shield one another to protect their career. Ignore the voice of people who were persecuted, and the people have nowhere to ask for help. Isn't this the rhythm of a nation's ending? Is there any hope for Taiwan? People cannot escape from doing wrong. The willingness to face mistakes and bear the consequences is admirable, because you must have the measure and the courage to bear the criticism. Admitting mistake is the first step. To be accountable for any consequence is the way to redeem yourself. Learn from mistakes and become a better person. We all educate our children this way. And we need our society full of this type of people. We need our country to be run by these honest, compassionate, and courageous people, so that Taiwan's future is bright and promising. I hope that this rogue official will come up and admit their mistake, return our land, rectify the Tai Ji Men case, and take responsibility for the suffering of the people and the loss of the country in the past 25 years. I believe that the government has enough courage and wisdom to do the right thing and establish and implement a fair and equitable rule of law system as a guideline for the whole country. Government officials who are public servants of the people should administer according to the law. Rewards and punishments are strict, fair, and open. Do not waste a single penny of nation's money. Abolish the bonus system. Severely punish illegal and corrupt officials. Tax officials assess tax in accordance with the law. The people pay tax in accordance with the law. Everyone follows the law and follows its conscience. Taiwan will regain its reputation as a beacon of democracy in Asia. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Han. A big takeaway from Ms. Han's speech is when we make a mistake, admitting it is the first step. Then to be accountable for any liability is the way to redeem ourselves. When we learn from our mistakes, we become better people. May we all follow our conscience as guidance of our actions whenever there's any doubt. May the political leaders and officials in Taiwan be inspired with conscience as well and redress the unjust Tai Ji Men case. And next, let's invite Coco for her presentation.
Dear Dr. Introvigne and distinguished guests here, I'm honored to be here. My name is Coco. I'm a Tai Ji Men disciple, a Taiwanese American, and also a volunteer of Action Alliance to redress 1219. Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy is an international nonprofit cultural organization. It aims to advance physical, mental, and spiritual health of world citizens through Qigong practice, along with the yin and yang wisdom rooted in Taoism. Have you ever heard of Silicon Valley pressure cooker? So yes, I used to live in a pressure cooker. After I joined Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy, I let go of my stress and become more energetic, which leads to be more productive at home and work. Moreover, I turned life challenges into play and enjoyed helping others, which benefits my career growth and improve my interpersonal relationships. In 2018, I had an opportunity to follow Dr. Hong to volunteer for the World Leaders Summit of Love and Peace held at the United Nations, headquartered in New York. This event opened my heart and expanded my worldview. Dr. Hong told me that no one is fine until everyone is fine. Since then, I have become more aware of human rights and other global issues. Tai Ji Men is a joyful place, which can transform grudges into forgiveness. My dad is a survivor of World War II. The post-war trauma made him strong-minded and grumpy. Dr. Hong told me that happiness is a choice, not a result. His word inspired me to take my dad to Tai Ji Men in the hopes of rebuilding our relationships. I saw him carefully study every movement, as well as ponder Tai Ji Men yin and yang wisdom. He was very happy to discuss philosophy with Tai Ji Men members and gradually let go of his past. So my dad passes away 3 years ago. At the time, my mom was devastated. Meditation gave me an anchor to be strong and be there for my mom. Spirituality and the searching for meaning in life used to be a very nebulous concept to me. Dr. Hong taught me to cherish a relationship when the loved one is still alive, and let go of a relationship when the loved one deceased. I realized that life is short, so I need to take this opportunity to stand up for human rights, justice, peace, and conscience. I'd like to pay tribute to Dr. Hong and his wife, my Shifu and Shimu, for guiding me toward a better self. I'm a Taiwanese American. I love Taiwan. I love Taiwan's people and love Taiwan's culture. I also embrace American core values, freedom of belief, democracy, and human rights. According to a report, 2020 country report on human rights practices Taiwan, published by the US Department of State, Taiwan is a democracy, significant human rights issue included, serious action of corruption. Through my own experience with Tai Ji Men case, I'm very much agree with this report. In 1996, Dr. Hong Kuan-ren accused Dr. Hong of raising goblins because there is a religious purge at the time that target religious and spiritual minority groups. It is also because Dr. Ho was greedy to advance his own career. After this case, he was also promoted. In the last 25 years, the National Taxation Bureau has been sending Tai Ji Men illegal tax bill through. Even though Tai Ji Men was declared innocent in judicial court on July 13, 2027, in August of 2020, National Taxation Bureau even confiscated Tai Ji Men's land intended for self-cultivation. The root cause is tax bonus. The tax collector and National Taxation Bureau receive a bonus for collecting tax, which entices the abuse of state power to fabricate false tax bills. Moreover, the few corrupted government officials is not sanctioned, even got promoted, which in return reinforce corruptions even more. As a volunteer of Action Alliance to address 1219, I have written numerous letters to Taiwanese government, and my voice is not heard. After I exhausted all channels within Taiwan's government, I like to seek assistance from international activists of anti-corruption and human rights. Taiwan is invited for the Summit to Democracy on December 9th through December 10th this year. Yes, Taiwan is democracy. However, as the United States President Biden stated, no democracy is perfect and no diplomacy is ever final. Because of my love to Taiwan, democracy and human rights, I'd like to call upon Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen to return Tai Ji Men its property, revoke all illegal tax bills, abolish the tax bonus, hold a few corrupted government officials accountable, stop corruption, respect the freedom of belief, and protect human rights. That way, Taiwan can be a solid democracy and a reliable partner of democracy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Ye. I quote and quote, no democracy is perfect and no democracy is ever final. We don't expect the democracy in Taiwan perfect. As a matter of fact, the democracy in Taiwan is far from final, and it doesn't justify the persecution it imposes on people's human rights and freedom of religion. Our next speaker, Ms. Cici Han, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for those joining us online. My mother's health has improved tremendously after she began practicing Qigong and Tai Chi Men when I was a child. Shortly after, she brought my sister and I to Tai Chi Men, where I became a member of this large family when I was 5 years old. The Los Angeles Academy was our home away from home during our early years in the United States, and it offered us a sense of belonging as newcomers to the country. Growing up in this large family, I learned a lot from my Shifu Dr. Hong through his words of wisdom, Qigong practice, and volunteer work, which helped me realize my potential and gave me a sense of purpose in life. As a Qigong practitioner and a promoter of for love and peace, I understand that in order to make a positive impact to this world, my actions must mirror my words. A culture of love, peace, and conscience must be lived. According to Dr. Hong, conscience is innate and emerges from within. And I have discovered over these years that we can always hear it, especially when we're making decisions. According to some estimates, an average adult makes more than 35,000 decisions a day. Some are significant while others are insignificant. Do I accelerate or slow down when a light turns yellow? We make a lot of decisions that we don't think that will have long-term implications, yet some are more significant and have larger ramifications. Our conscience, in my opinion, is always being tested. Do I stop and help someone who is in need if I have the resources to do so, or do I walk away? Negligence is also a decision. Do I turn a blind eye to someone who is in need of assistance? As a customs broker, I face a variety of dilemmas on a daily basis at work. Do I encourage importers to obtain proper classifications for their importing merchandise in order to comply with federal regulations to get the correct duty tax? Or do I willfully look away and allow importers to use the incorrect information in order to pay the lowest duty or avoid paying altogether? Actually, if I was caught doing that, I would be in big trouble. But if I can get away with it, well, I can see that's how corruption begins. People who commit crimes or contribute to corruption do so for personal gain, or they find themselves caught up in an existing corruption machine. And if they don't play it along, their lives or livelihood would be jeopardized. Many times, these machines are running so well on their own that defeating them requires more than one righteous person. Therefore, everyone, young and old, can play a role in putting an end to corruption. And it all starts with inspiring each other to follow their conscience. Make the decisions in your life that you know will allow you to sleep well at night. The Tai Ji Men case, the control yuan investigated prosecutor Ho Kwan-zhen, who investigated the Tai Ji Men case in 1996 and found him to have committed 8 major violations of the law. The control yuan requested that the Ministry of Justice take severe disciplinary actions against Ho. However, the Ministry of Justice did not do so. Rather than being punished, Ho Kwan-zhen was promoted to Deputy Director General of the Anti-Corruption Agency in 2018. This is corruption within the government agency, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. Government wrongdoings resulted in a fabricated and unjust case of Tai Ji Men. People will continue to be harmed and suffer in the future if the culprits are not being brought to justice and crime rings are formed. Government officials like you and me are human beings who make decisions day to day. While some rogue bureaucrats are cautiously participating in corrupt practices, I like to believe that there are many more who desire to do the right thing. Combating corruption is not a one-man job. It takes a village. Conscience must be awakened, and which entails that we must act on it. As a learning Tai Ji Men, if we desire a brighter future for our children, we must take the steps necessary to make our aspirations a reality. Listen and follow our conscience, one decision at a time. That, I believe, is the antidote to corruption. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Han. One unconscientious decision after another made by some rogue officials in Taiwan contributed to government corruption and persecution on Tai Ji Men and its deeds for 25 years. It stresses how important it is that each one of us, we need to always let our conscience guide our actions. Right, thank you very much for joining us on stage to present your personal experiences and your thoughts. We would like to invite you all to go back to your seats as we enjoy a short play together. Next, please join me to welcome the conscientious warriors who are determined to reveal the truth and protect human rights. Let's give up for them.
A fake tax bill derived from a fake case revealed the problem in the Taiwan government. It suppresses and persecutes the people for 25 years. In case the prosecutors abuse their powers, cover up. When illegal tax bills are issued indiscriminately, cover up. An illegal auction, cover up. Also, when police illegally arrest the innocent, then cover up. What kind of government would do everything possible to hide the truth? The case against Tai Ji Men violates two international conventions: the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and has under international watch. Those officials who make mistakes are getting promoted instead of being punished for their wrongdoing. Regardless of being treated unfairly, Tai Ji Men disciples have always upheld the chivalrous spirit, never given up, promoting world peace and justice. Could it be that our world has lost axiom and justice?
Hi, my friends. Thank you for your persistence.
In the past, we all worked hard in various parts of the world. Now we are here together.
That's right, my friends. You are not alone. There are many righteous people around the world. And today, we are all here to support you.
Fight for justice.
Yes, it warms our hearts that along the way in fighting for justice and human rights, we have met friends who are standing side by side and supporting us. We have become friends and family. In return, with appreciation, we present to you with the love song.
Love in your heart, while I'm living on
This is such a beautiful moment. Please stay where you are. Please stay where you are. Don't leave yet. We would like to invite Dr. Massimo to join us in the picture. Thank you. Right in the middle. Thank you very much. Oh. Right. The warriors come together. Standing closer together. All right. Thank you so much. Please return to your seat. May love heal our hearts and the world. Thank you so much. It was a beautiful song. Now we would like to welcome the second round of speakers. Ms. Michelle Shen, please come on the stage. Mr. Jeff Chen, Ms. Jessica Kuo. Thank you. Immediately, Michelle, would you like to share your thoughts with us?
Hello, my name is Michelle Shen. I'm an 8th grader studying in South Point Middle School from Los Angeles, California. I'm also part of Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy. Tai Ji Men is a spiritual group that focuses on improving physical, mental, and spiritual health. In Tai Ji Men, I've learned how to use conscience to make the right decisions. It is a very good place I've grown up in, and Tai Ji Men brothers and sisters love me as a family. I'm sad that they have been treated very unjustly by some Taiwanese officials. This summer, in the 2021 IRF Summit in Washington, D.C., I've met a lot of people from around the world working on the human rights fields. Many of them are experts in the freedom of religion or belief. I've met the co-chairs, Mr. Sam Brownback and Dr. Katrina Lantos-Sweat. Their speeches resonated with me. I've discovered that they are very kind people who kept mentioning about applying conscience to help people around the world. I had the opportunity to ask Dr. Katrina Lantos-Sweat how to use conscience to navigate the world. She was surprised that I had asked this question because of my young age. Actually, my shifu, Dr. Hong, from Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy inspired me to explore the world of conscience. We had a pleasant conversation about conscience and the world. As a Tai Ji Men Dizi from Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy, I'd like to raise awareness about an unjust human rights persecution on Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy that has been oppressed in Taiwan for 25 years. In fact, the Control Yuan has even reviewed this case 3 times and found that there are many major flaws that the prosecutor and tax officials have made. Even so, Prosecutor Ho Quan-ren accused Tai Ji Men of witchcraft, raising goblins, and other fabrications. It is very bizarre that Tai Ji Men is still being prosecuted even after they have won all court cases, confirmed not guilty, and received national compensation. Even so, Prosecutor Ho Quan-ren has not been punished. There is no consequences for Prosecutor Ho, the Tax Bureau, and those who confiscated the property of Tai Ji Men. Shockingly, Prosecutor Ho was promoted instead. The staffs from the Taiwanese Tax Bureau who illegally auctioned people's property received a bonus. This is the worst example of breaking the rule of law. I've been fighting for this case ever since I was born. When I was 2 years old, my parents took me to protest at the Control Yuan. I've also participated in many other peaceful protests about this case. Everyone there has been so supportive and kind. I love Taiwan and its culture. All of my family relatives are living in Taiwan. It is a dismay that this case has happened in Taiwan. I think that it is crazy that only a couple of people could cause such tragedy to Tai Ji Men. Currently, I'm working on a documentary on this topic with my friend for a school project or National History Day. We are hoping this attracts more attention in this case, as we are planning on entering a competition with the film. I realized that the Tai Ji Men case highlighted the importance of truth and conscience. As we dove deeper into the topic, we discovered how many ordinary members were impacted by this case. Similarly, we also discovered the many flaws that the Taiwanese government has. This case is also a prime example of human rights violation by national power. Lastly, I want to encourage all government officials to stand up for Tai Ji Men unjust cases and listen to their conscience and have courage to make the right decisions. I hope by solving the Tai Ji Men unjust case, Taiwan can become a better country for the people and the world. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michelle. When an 8th grader sees right from wrong and wants to do something to make the persecution on Tai Ji Men stop, I see hope. And most importantly, I see what Tai Ji Men has taught her. That is to insist on doing the right things. Immediately, we're going to have our next speaker. Her name is Noemi M. Nakano, but since she cannot be here with us today, we would like to welcome her message through a video, please.
Hello, my name is Noemi Nakano, and I've been a Tai Ji Men member in LA for the past 7 years. I am extremely grateful and honored to be under the guidance of Grandmaster Dr. Han. I have been reflecting for the past 7 years as I have been informed of the unresolved injustice of the Tai Ji Men case. I do not intellectually understand why the Taiwanese government has not held their unlawful tax bureau staff accountable. After 25 years of persistent evidence and law experts, even outside of the country, providing information that of such dishonest and extreme abuse to Taiwanese citizens. Our Honorable Grandmaster Dr. Han has patiently waited for justice, action of conscience from the Taiwanese Tax Bureau. Tai Ji Men Grandmaster teaches us honesty, bravery upon wrongdoing, the importance of love to the world, and following our conscience in all that we do. As we practice these virtues and teachings, it is with great sadness, but a heart filled with hope that I wait for justice to be soon practiced. A fair and humane Taiwanese Tax Bureau. Tai Ji Men Qigong, under direction of our Grandmaster Shifu Dr. Han, has spread love and peace around the 6 continents, sharing the beauty of Chinese culture, the importance of conscience and a genuine heart with love to humanity. Perhaps this unjust practice from a few unscrupulous government officials in Taiwan's Tax Bureau toward Tai Ji Men, which is an honest and honorable group, is to demonstrate to the entire world how injustice and practiced worldly regardless of any identity. Especially government officials who hold public powers should not ignore the rules and violate human rights. They especially shouldn't rob people of their properties using illegal taxation, damaging people's rights to property. Example from history, countries like this would face destruction. Bribery is not a solution to settle these dishonest actions. And 25 years of persistence are to reveal the truth. The truth will always bring peace to mankind. My journey in Tai Ji Men has given me so much that it is very hard to describe such priceless, valuable treasure. I was raised with very old traditions of limiting women through the direction of father's rule. However, raised as the oldest of 6 women, my path in the United States with a different environment put me in unbelievable spaces. My true essence was always questioned and repressed, especially by my parents. As a result, by the time I reached my 50 years of life, I reached a severe health crisis for what I had contained emotionally. I had always been a hard worker and found my many resources to work out my issues emotionally and medically. At the most critical time of my health, I finally found a caring Chinese herbal acupuncturist, Dr. Li, a Tai Ji Men member who took care of me persistently, fixing one thing and encountering another medical issue. I can vividly remember, though, my treatments were painful physically, but I was able to perceive an unbelievable peaceful presence and an amazing smile that radiated joy and hope. I thought I could be that way one day. On my first visit to the academy, I was impressed with the hospitality and the warmth of the Tai Ji Men family. I had suffered irregular sleeping patterns due to my mother's medical issues and my medical issues. And at first, that night, I slept deeply and woke up feeling rested. Eventually, my family, friends, and students saw my changes and would comment on a different Noemi. Noemi was radiant, smiling, and in peace. The aggressive confrontations in my work were observed, and I would gently smile and give empathy to the aggressor. I was admired for such a presence in spite of such hostile people. I was so grateful to be a role model to my students. In March of 2020, I finally became brave enough to accept an invitation to participate in as a full PAL volunteer in my country, Mexico, promoting the first International Day of Conscience. All fell into place and with a brave heart right before pandemic lockout. We returned to our country's lockout, facing quarantine safety measures for the well-being of our families. I have been home on lockout for the safety and care of my mom's hospice care as a patient. I have peacefully and joyfully embraced the care of my mother 24/7 as her decline has needed total reliance on my care, especially with her dementia. I find joy and gratitude in my home surroundings. In the midst of all this chaos, despair, uncertainty, violence, and hypersensitivity to COVID-19 pandemic in the outside world, my health has been excellent. I have been in peace and with a joyful heart, spread a smile on the cell phone, phone calls, or video chats. My spiritual life has been tremendous. I have found the proper words and expressions of love to those who have or are grieving painful losses. There have been moments when I question, how can I be living in such a peaceful and joyful moment when the world is in complete despair and chaos? I could only come to the conclusion that Shifu has given me the tools and the wisdom to confront in such challenging moments in life. A loving heart to mankind, regardless of its essence, and a peaceful, joyful heart in the midst of humanity facing tremendous grief and chaos. I thank my Grandmaster, Dr. Hong, with all my heart. Lastly, I hope the government of Taiwan rectify that Tai Ji Men case and stop impeding Tai Ji Men's efforts in spreading love and peace around the world. And I also hope that everyone can enjoy freedom, equality, and human rights can be protected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nakano. It's a very touching, life-changing story of yours that you shared with us. Many of us, Tai Ji Men Dizi, have shared similar experiences in Tai Ji Men. Shifu teaches us Dizi, wisdom of life, and provides academies for these to cultivate their heart and where brothers and sisters learn from each other and improve themselves. We're calling out to Taiwanese government to return the sacred land for cultivation to Tai Ji Men immediately. August 21st of this year was the 1-year mark since Tai Ji Men's land was confiscated. We will continue to fight for the retrieval of our land as it is ours and was taken because of an unjustified tax bill. Let's take a look at this next video that unveils the truth of this unjust case.
The auction process has been legally concluded.
I saw a strip of shadow in his eyes. I think that he might have red goblins.
If based on the look in your eyes, a prosecutor can decide whether to prosecute you or not, then there will be no peace in Taiwan.
Where the indictment is unacceptable. If the tax authority uses this indictment as the basis for taxation, I think it is questionable.
The code doesn't come. The code doesn't come. The code doesn't come.
It has been confirmed that the money involved is a gift rather than income. So there is no issue of income tax.
You can go to the website of the Control Yuan to see that I have issued 7 corrections. For each correction, the NTB said, we made a mistake.
Tai Ji Men once again won the case. Even the Control Yuan decided that Tai Ji Men is innocent. I can't think of any other course of action in our country's legal system can be taken to solve the case.
The administrative agencies exercise administrative discretion. They have to ensure that people's human rights on taxation are protected.
The whole judicial system has proved Tai Ji Men innocent. There's no way the investigation by the tax agencies is clearer than that by the judicial department.
Has wasted too much time and resource. This is very serious, and it has shaken the 5 branches of government and the foundation of the nation.
Calling on the taxation bureau to revoke its illegal tax bills. You just ignore them. Hey, you think you're above us? You ignore courts, the Control Yuan, and even the Legislative Yuan. You really think you're the boss?
We request that the Ministry of Finance conclude this case in 2 months.
Gifts in nature. The others all say gifts too.
Let the NTB of the Central Area submit the report to the Ministry of Finance. Okay, we'll do as the Deputy Minister says. Revoke it? Okay, area will report to the Ministry of Finance.
Between 1966 and 1990, Tai Ji Men had no tax problems. From 1997 to this day, Tai Ji Men has had no tax problems either. Why did you impose taxes on Tai Ji Men only for 1991 to 1996?
Thousands of people surround the auction site in Miaoli. The people still sat and wait to defend the land. The Tai Ji Men case, in which over 10,000 people have been victimized, has lasted for 24 years. But the enforcement agency still wanted to auction the land of Tai Ji Men to pay back a wrong tax bill when Tai Ji Men was found not guilty of tax evasion by the court 13 years ago.
Since it is a problematic judgment, the enforcement agency should not have executed it. So why did they execute it? Why? It's a question of bonuses. When the Tai Ji Men case was handled like this, will ordinary people encounter the same problem? Definitely.
Search was conducted on December 19, 1996. He said that there was tax evasion. The income tax in 1996 cannot be audited until April 1997. They had not yet filed their taxes. How could you investigate tax evasion? How do you know how they will file their tax return? Therefore, the tax years involved in the case clearly showed that this violated the tax law. During the search on December 19, 1996, two bank statements show the balance of $22,000. However, the next day, a newspaper published that the master of Tai Ji Men had $110 million income from fraudulent acts and cram school tuition. You can't make such an inference even when you are writing a novel. The so-called evidence obtained after the search can be proved to be false, because you already said the amount. The transcripts and testimony. When were they done? Definitely after December 20th. Could I know how much tax you have evaded the minute I am assigned to the case when auditing taxes? It's more than illegal taxation. It's the so-called framing. $22,000 was blown up to be $110 million. Then this is all imagined. It's very clear in the Tai Ji Men tax case that the tax officers and taxation bureau imposed illegal taxes. Imposing taxes based on imaginary data is absolutely against the principle that taxes should be imposed according to the law.
The Taiwanese government to take action and correct the mistakes conducted by a few rogue bureaucrats 25 years ago, ensure the human rights that Tai Ji Men and Taiwanese people deserve. And next, we would like to invite Mr. Chen to share his thoughts on this case. Mr. Chen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Chen. I'm a software engineer. I joined Tai Ji Men when I was 7. In 1993, my grandpa died in a car accident. Everyone in my family was devastated, especially my grandma. She was very sad and she could barely eat or drink. That is when a family friend introduced Tai Ji Men to us, and my grandma first joined. Her shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, taught her to let go of the past, look forward, and find happiness and inner peace. She started smiling again very soon, and she asked all of us to join, and her shifu became our shifu. Before joining Tai Ji Men, I was very shy. I tried to avoid public attention as much as possible. However, after joining Tai Ji Men, Shifu told us to be confident and to open our mind and to become a better person. Since then, I started opening my mind and made more friends. I even got selected as a class leader at school for several times. Unfortunately, in 1996, Tai Ji Men became a victim of religious persecution in Taiwan. With very limited investigation and with false evidences and witnesses, prosecutor Hou Kuan-ren accused Shifu and several brothers and sisters for fraud and tax evasion. He even asked the tax officer Shi Yue-shen, who had never conducted any factual investigation about Tai Ji Men, to commit perjury. Shi Yue-shen falsely accused Tai Ji Men as a crime school and suspicious of tax evasion. On December 19, 1996, when prosecutor Hou Kuan-ren first came to Tai Ji Men to do a search, he not only brought his team, but he also brought the media. This is a big violation of the principle of secret investigation. The Tai Ji Men case is all over the evening news that day. Before prosecutor Hou Kuan-ren concluded the investigation, and before judge's ruling, we were already found guilty by the media. In 1996, I was only 11. At school, my friends started laughing at me for being a member of Tai Ji Men. They say Tai Ji Men is a cult. They say Shifu is a fraud. They say my parents got scammed. Some of the parents even asked their kids to stay away from me, fearing that I might have some negative effects on them. I was so angry and upset, but there's nothing I could do. Since then, I lost the trust in the Taiwanese government and the media. I always put on a big question mark on whatever the government or the media try to tell us. To me, the whole government system is like a huge black box. I don't know what's inside, and there's no transparency. In 2007, Taiwan Supreme Court ruled all the defendants in Tai Ji Men case not guilty. There is no fraud, there is no tax evasion. In 2019, the National Taxation Bureau, the NTB, corrected the tax deposition, the fines of income tax, and the other related items to zero for the tax bills of 1991 and 1993 to 1996. But what about the tax bill for 1992? Somehow, the NTB is not willing to correct the 1992 tax bill. Last year, they even used the 92 tax bill to take away Shifu's property, just like we all saw from the video. This is obviously wrong. Tai Ji Men has been the same organization throughout the years. And there is nothing special in the year of 1992. We didn't suddenly become a crime school just in 92. I don't know why the NTB is not willing to revoke the 92 tax bill. All I know is that tax officials got some kind of bonuses when they open the tax bill, regardless if it's right or not. They get the bonuses again when they confiscate people's property, just like what they did and when they took away Shifu's property. By definition, corruption is the dishonest and fraudulent conduct by those in power. If the tax officials file the tax bill and took away Tai Ji Men's property just for their personal gain. That is corruption. They should have known better than anyone else that the 1992 tax bill was illegal from the very beginning. To mark International Anti-Corruption Day, 9th of December, and raise awareness about corruption and how to fight it, the United Nations Development Program and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime created a joint international campaign called Your No Counts. Your No Counts. As a government official or a government leader, you should always say no to whatever is not right. You should always say no to any unlawful or suspicious tax assigned to you. You should always the challenge made by your manager or your coworker and see if it's illegal or legit. I hereby urge the National Taxation Bureau and the Taiwanese government to correct their mistakes, revoke Tai Ji Men's 1992 tax bill, return Tai Ji Men's sacred land, and begin following all the good practices and philosophies to better serve the people of Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. We are here to say no to the Taiwanese government. No more illegal tax bills. No more persecution on our rights to freedom of religion. No more illegal enforcement on people's properties. No more. And next, we're going to have Ms. Jessica Kuo to share with us her experience.
Hello, everyone. It's a great honor to be here today from Canada. I joined Tai Ji Men at the age of 19, and I simply just wanted to cultivate my heart and raise my spiritual level. After practicing more than a year, the Tai Ji Men incident happened. I recalled that Shifu never told me anything negative, but rather a positive outlook on life. Therefore, I was not affected by the exaggerated and untrue reports from the media at that time. I still went to Tai Ji Men every day and practiced Qigong with brothers and sisters because it was already my second home. However, I was still concerned about wearing the uniform to walk around outside because of the strange looks I felt from others. My college classmate, who is also a Tai Ji Men sister, once told me, after the incident, she had concern about me and was observing me in some ways that I was completely unaware of. During the 4 years we spent together, she found I had good fellowship with others. I was genuine and kind, and she saw my way of doing things. Especially when she was facing a challenge at work, I sang the song, "What a Bright World," that I learned from Tai Ji Men to encourage her. And the lyrics were asking us to open our hearts and let the sunshine come in. She was crying while listening and exclaimed in her heart, "How could somebody be so bright and positive?" She wondered what Tai Ji Men was about and began to open her heart to learn more about us, eventually becoming a disciple. Looking back on the whole journey, I realized that Shifu wanted us to learn to be honest to ourselves, fix our own shortcomings, comprehend the true purpose and value of life, and attain the greatest joy of helping others and ourselves. I'm glad I didn't let the ridiculous incident impact me a lot. Instead, I accept Shifu's teachings and use the wisdom to influence others in my daily life. So they may get the benefit to face the challenges of their life as well. I will never be able to finish learning the wisdom that Shifu taught me. When I worked as a family counselor for immigrants in Canada, every time I encountered a difficult problem with a client. Many of Shifu's teachings would come to my mind. I have come to realize that the wisdom I have learned in Tai Ji Men can be a great help to everybody, mentally and physically. How wonderful it would be if they all had the opportunity to be inspired by Shifu, to learn good wisdom, so that they could be transformed physically and mentally. But it is sad to see how many families have lost the opportunity because of this wrongful case. I remember in 2001, when Shifu came to DC to attend the inauguration of President Bush, which was also my second year of graduate study. I met up with Shifu and brothers and sisters from Central New York State. The weather in January was wet and cold, and I was impressed by the statement we received from the people of China outside the White House. I remembered that Shifu stopped for a moment and asked us, what inspiration do we get from that? We should learn the spirit of never giving up. Shifu's words were still fresh in my mind, but I never thought that we would be the ones to come over here to DC to present our case for the Taiwanese government's contempt of the rule of law and the injustice that we have suffered. And this happened in the so-called democratic Taiwan, which is really saddening to think about. Overseas Taiwanese are extremely disappointed that the government ignores the judicial decision and actually uses such tactics to rob the money from their people. I admire Shifu for never having the mentality of paying a little unjustified tax to get rid of the problem. Although it is a long and difficult way, but Shifu leads us on the path of justice and truth and asks us to actually experience it. Not to mention that today's efforts will actually affect the survival of many families and how important it will be to the future of a democratic country. During this period, disciples living in Canada also raised the issues and sent the letters to the three Taipei economic and cultural offices in Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver. But these Taiwanese officials who were supposed to serve the overseas Taiwanese do not really care about us. Taiwan is a country that values Canada is a country that values human rights, respects freedom of religion, and is multicultural and inclusive. This year, September 30th, is the first legal holiday, which we call the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, established by the Parliament to honor the innocent victims of the past. This is what a mature democracy with the rule of law looks like. No matter how many years have passed, when faced with a mistake, the government is still willing to admit it and apologize and make amends to the people. We should continue to insist on doing the right thing and not allow ourselves to be bullied by Taiwanese government, breaking the law and trampling on the rule of law. We should not do what is wrong or compromise, because justice and righteousness are irreplaceable universal values, and freedom of belief is a basic human right that cannot be taken away. If we continue to choose neutrality and silence, we are assisting the abuser and fostering criminality. Upholding the truth and preserving justice is critical, not only for the fairness and justice of the legal and tax systems, but also for inherent human rights and the future security and peace of future generations. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt gratitude to Massimo, PierLuigi, Willy, Camelia, Alex, and all the experts and scholars around the world who have supported justice and truth. I'm very grateful for your companionship and support along the way. Every one of you is an angel leading the way of human rights, making us feel that we are not alone on the right path, and inspiring us to believe that justice and peace will finally prevail sooner in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kuo. Jessica mentioned the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation was celebrated this year by Canada to honor innocent victims of the past. It presents true democracy when a government is willing to admit and correct its wrongdoings. We are calling out to the Taiwanese government again to redress the unjust Tai Ji Men case immediately, to show Taiwanese people and the world that Taiwan is truly a beacon in democracy of Asia. Thank you for sharing with us your stories and thoughts today. And I would like to invite you to go back to your seats. Thank you very much. Today's program has come to an end. Well, almost. Next, I would like to ask Dr. Massimo if you wouldn't mind wrapping up this forum with your closing remarks on the stage.
Thank you. And as all of you know, we are preparing with this forum the International Day Against Corruption and the International Day of Human Rights. And they will come one day after the other. So almost all speakers have focused on these two concepts. First, corruption, and the second, human rights. And several speakers, including Willy, Fautré, Camelia, and Professor Zoccatelli, and Alex, and many witnesses, they ask the question whether corruption is in itself a violation of human rights. And as we heard, this is a debated question in international fora, because as Camelia said, when the United Nations issued the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, they didn't mention corruption. And yet the full enjoyment of the human rights consecrated in that declaration was frustrated by corruption. And so scholars have considered this connection between corruption and human rights, and United Nations themselves have considered this link. Now, some of those who are listening to us, they may believe this is an academic question debated by scholars, or this is a legal question better left to specialized lawyers such as Alex, but it is not. It's totally crucial for the Tai Ji Men case, because when you say we were persecuted by corrupted officials, if corruption is just a case of criminal law, it's a case to be addressed by courts in Taiwan. And the courts in Taiwan have the final word on issues of criminal law. If they don't solve the problem, there is nothing you can do. They're just bad courts. But if corruption, as we believe it is, and increasingly the United Nations believe it is, and increasingly the European Court of Human Rights believes it is, and increasingly the United States believes it is, then things all of a sudden change. Because human rights issues, as Professor Zoccatelli said, human rights issues are by their very nature international. Not to mention that Taiwan has accepted to include the two main United Nations covenants in its domestic law. But beyond this important fact lies the idea that human rights are international. So international institutions and other countries should not interfere on how criminal law or administrative cases are handled in one given country, but they should interfere when human rights are violated. All totalitarian regimes and dictators say they should not, no. Even human rights issues are domestic issues, but it's now clear human rights issues are universal issues. They are not purely domestic issues. And other countries and international organizations, they have both a right and also a duty to interfere. So again, let me be clear, to the risk of repeating myself. If this was a purely criminal case in Taiwan, there is not much foreigners can do. But since corruption is part of human rights, it is an international issue. We have every right of internationalizing. Now, of course, let me touch briefly another point. The Tai Ji Men case is not only a human rights case because of corruption. Of course, today, in anticipation of the International Day Against Corruption, all speakers focused on corruption. But the Tai Ji Men case is a human rights case also, or perhaps first and foremost, because it's a violation of form, freedom of religion or belief. And also cases of form can and should be internationalized. But in addition to violate the human rights because of it violates form, what was done to Tai Ji Men in Taiwan is also a violation of human rights, because down deeply is based on corruption of some bureaucrats, and corruption is a case of violation of human rights. So we are not twisting international law when we ask, and that's the reason why we are here today, we ask that international organizations or even national organizations in countries such as the United States that deal with international abuse of human rights take an interest in the Tai Ji Men case, because it is a human rights case. It is a case of violation of freedom of religion or belief. It is a case of violation of the enjoyment of human rights through corruption. And as such, it's a case of international importance. And we are here to ask the international organizations and to ask the agencies of the government of the United States that deal with violation of human rights to intervene, because it's their mandate to intervene when human rights are violated all over the world. And the Tai Ji Men case is a very clear case when, unfortunately, in a democratic country, but democratic countries are not exempt from human rights violation, unfortunately, in a democratic country, human rights have been seriously violated. And this is an international case, and this is the case where we should ask and raise our voice and even scream that the international community should intervene and take notice and protest against the violation of human rights of Tai Ji Men and ask that the situation be rectified, perpetrators should be punished, system should be reformed, and the sacred land illegally and unjustly seized should be given back to Tai Ji Men. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Massimo. Thank you so much, Dr. Massimo, for very organized closing remarks, and and also pointing out that Tai Ji Men case seemingly was an unjust tax case, but it actually closely tied to human rights violation due to government officials' corruption. And Tai Ji Men case is not only corruption, but it's a human rights violation, and it's not just Tai Ji Men case anymore. It's global, it's universal. And thank you so much for bringing all the experts and scholars from around the world together and support us in the Tai Ji Men case. And we really appreciate your efforts, and thank you so much. What have you been doing brings hope to the whole world. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we will, as my final remarks, we will not give up. Let's keep fighting for Tai Ji Men justice and fighting for human rights for the whole world. Thank you very much.
What is the truth about the Tai Ji Men case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance laid down the promise to reform the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the rogue government officials' conscience? Where are justice and human rights? What is the truth about the Tai Ji Men case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance laid down their promise to reform the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the rogue government officials' conscience? Where are justice and human rights? What is the truth about the Tai Ji Men case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance laid down their promise to reform the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership.